Hi, this is Mary, your holistic recovery coach. Today I want to talk about a recovery concept that addiction and alcoholism are progressive and fatal. Okay, we'll talk about alcoholism specifically. That's the context that this saying or this concept really comes from, but also obviously it applies to most drugs as well, most illegal drugs. So the concept is that the disease of alcoholism is progressive and fatal. So what that means is that progressive means it gets worse over time, and fatal obviously means what it sounds like, is that it will kill you, that you can die from alcoholism. Again, I'll just talk about alcoholism and know that this applies as well to most categories of drug addiction. Okay, and some other addictions as well. But physically speaking, alcoholism is progressive and fatal. Just talking about the physical aspects of it alone, it will get worse over time, right? So when you're talking about an addictive process, when you're addicted to a substance like alcohol, usually you need more over time to get the same effect, right? That's the kind of the definition, if you will, of tolerance. You develop a tolerance to it. Over time, usually you need more to get the same effect, right? Even if you're a coffee drinker, maybe the first time you drank coffee, you may have had kind of the jitters, and just from half a cup, and now maybe you drink a cup and a half and don't have any jitters, right? So what happened there? You developed a tolerance. With alcoholism, it is progressive in the matter that the longer it goes on for, the worse it gets. Now, there's a lot of people who might say, who might contest that or say, I know someone in my life who's, clearly dependent on alcohol, but it doesn't seem like it's gotten worse. It may or may not be the case for every individual, but generally speaking, it is known to be true that it's progressive and fatal. The progressive part, again, can be subtle. It can be really gradual, and to the outside person, to the onlooker, they might not know that it's getting worse. Also, alcoholics often are pretty good at covering their tracks, or hiding or disguising or minimizing the effects, the reality, and sometimes the consequences of their drinking. Certainly, we know that untreated, it doesn't get better on its own. It doesn't just miraculously disappear. Someone might spontaneously stop using with or without withdrawal or effects of that. But generally speaking, without some type of process of change, some type of therapeutic process, some support network, some inner searching and changing, without that, in the absence of that, people might just be dry. And that can be pretty miserable and an unhappy experience as well. That's a topic for a different video. Dry versus sober. But progressive, again, just means that it gets a little worse as it goes along. And for some people, it might speed up faster than others. Everyone's process looks a little different. It's going to depend on everyone's individual physiology, how much they're drinking. A lot of different factors go into that. But again, generally speaking, it is considered a fact that alcoholism is progressive. It's a progressive illness. Okay. Just like most, it's not a great analogy, but let's say most serious cancers, right? Untreated, if you don't address it in some regard, is going to get worse if you don't change anything about what you're doing. If you keep doing the same thing and you have a disease process going on, chances are it's going to progress. And alcoholism is no different. In fact, it's probably worse in that regard. So progressive and fatal. Now, the fatal part obviously means that you can die from alcoholism. Sometimes it's a direct result of alcohol. If you die from alcohol poisoning, literally poisoning your system with so much alcohol in one particular episode or instance. But also, plenty of people have all sorts of different types of health conditions, even cancers, that have been linked to alcohol abuse. So alcohol abuse over time certainly has can have a devastating effect on all different systems of the physical body. And Obviously, indirectly, plenty of people are, lose their life to the indirect effects of alcoholism. Every day there's someone who dies from obviously a drunk driving accident, other accidents, maybe an accidental fire that's can be attributed to someone being under the influence and doing something irresponsible. Really, the list goes on endlessly of different accidents and things that could happen that could result in death that's indirectly caused. It's caused, but it's an indirect effect of the alcoholism itself. And we know that alcohol of all systems in the body certainly affects the liver. You hear about the most, and many people end up with liver disease, cirrhosis, different types of, and other types of pathologies that will kill them, but that are pretty miserable to deal with, like alcoholic myopathy, affects the muscular system of the body. There's again, so many different things that are impacted physically by alcoholism. And many might argue that, back to the progressive nature of it, that, the mental, emotional, spiritual effects of active alcoholism also can be progressive, right? Also, alcohol is a depressant. So whether someone is prone to depression or not, they absolutely seem to increase their likelihood of it of depression by using alcohol, since that is a depressant, even though it might seem to be the opposite when using it in the immediate gratification aspect. There's also, it's also a sugar, so sometimes there's actually literally it can have a seemingly kind of uplifting effect at first. But again, it's literally by definition, it is a depressant. So those are just a few of the points to consider about this concept, and really an accepted fact, if you will, or characteristic description of alcoholism as being progressive and fatal illness if not treated. Again, a dark topic, but we need to speak realistically about this, and far too many people know this firsthand and have witnessed this with loved ones. And so the good news is that although it's progressive and potentially fatal, causing a premature death, chances are if people are untreated alcoholics are going to die younger, sooner, a different type of death, or sooner than they would otherwise. Even though it's progressive and fatal, the good news is that that treatment is available, that recovery paths are available, and that people do and can recover every day. So you can arrest, if you will, that progressive cycle and path, that inevitable fatality involved as well, obviously, if you immediately seek help and then start on the path to recovery. Basically, you could think of the recovery as a progression as well, in the opposite direction, in the direction of wellness and well-being and feeling better and healing. And everyone's path is different, and everyone's journey and experiences on that path are different, and obviously will also be affected by how long the physical illness was active for, and many other factors. But the good news is that it involves a progressive, hopeful, the hope of a progressively healthier, happier existence on the recovering side of the addiction process. So as always, I will put some resources in the description below the video. And if you have any ideas, questions, or topics that you'd like to see me cover, please comment below the video or send me a direct message somehow. Thanks, and have a great 24 hours ahead.